Welcome to the show with no name for Friday, April 26, 2013. I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha and Gavin Murdoch. And I got to tell you, a funny thing happened yesterday.
On the way to the forum?
On the way to the forum.
No. We're going to do one musical at a time. We're celebrating the 70th anniversary of Oklahoma. We'll leave forum for another time.
Okay.
Anyway, I was having this astronaut test down at the hospital where they check your lung capacity.
Yeah.
I think I passed with flying colors, by the way, but it's always good. I was at ground zero, so we check it every couple of years.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It'll hold a lot of hot air?
So, in between... Wait till we get on the radio. People are actually listening. So in between tests, I got to calibrate the machines and stuff. So I'm chit-chatting with the technician, and somehow we got talking. Oh, I know. I'm looking out the window, and I can see up to Fairview Cemetery. And I said, I think that's Harvey Chalmers' grave right up there. And she says, well, you're going to have to explain that to me. So, well, Harvey Chalmers is a Button Canyon. And she says to me, now she has absolutely no idea who I am, which is always disconcerting when one thinks of oneself as a famous member of the community. But no idea whatsoever who I am. She says, you sound like you're in radio. As I think I just slipped into radio mode. I said, Tuesday, 10 o'clock. She said, where? Then I explained, no idea. What do you do? I said, we talk. What do you talk about? I said, we talk about everything. Anything.
Oh.
Where was that? St. Mary's?
Yeah. No idea who I was.
Yeah, a lot of out-of-town help work there, so
She's been there for years.
She probably opened the place.
Okay. Let's start off with something we forgot to do last Tuesday on the radio, and that is the passing of my friend and your relative, Dick Stark. Jeff Stad, and Vinny's grandfather, and Vanessa's grandfather, and Melissa's grandfather, and Joey's grandfather. And anyway, what a great guy, and colorful, as most of your relatives are. And most of my relatives, now that I think about it. And Jim, I think probably most of your relatives are fairly colorful.
Yeah, I think they were, yeah.
I first met Dick.
They weren't reds.
No.
When I was running for mayor. Now, of course, he's married into the Sandy family. His wife was Sarah Brockie, whose mother was Edith Brockie, who was a Sandy. Okay, so...
goes around, comes around.
The big issue in the Sandy family back in 1983 was their cousin, Fire Chief Baldine, whose mother was also a Sandy. And it was a big family back then. There was a time when Lou Sandy, who was a longtime supervisor from the 5th Ward, served about 30 years. I think he died with his boots on. I think, as I recall, he died in office. Lou Sandy, on any given election day, controlled 443 votes.
All relatives.
All relatives or people who married into the family, seriously, and they all did what he said, in those days. Who should we vote for, Uncle Lou? And that was it. So whoever he wanted started out with 443 votes.
How many times did Baldine get fired?
4.
4 times?
And I think it was only 2 at the time I was running for mayor. I think there were 2 more after that. In any event, I got to know a great many members of the Sandy family during that election because they were all on my side. Well, 443 of them, which is almost exactly the number of votes that I got, now that I think about it. In any event, I used to meet Dick down at the mall on Saturday mornings, where he would hang around with a really interesting crew of people, and that ended up being the core of my campaign. And I had put Dick on my committee on vacancies when I ran, and knew we became friends forever. I like to tell Jeff that Dick always looked on me as the son he never had. But anyway, you couldn't ask for a better friend or a better guy, and I always called him Pop, and he always called me son whenever we saw each other. And I loved him like a father. He was just a great guy. He, he suffered from cancer in recent months and did not keep his spirit down at all. If anything, it loosened it up a bit. He was temporarily up at the Wilkinson, for a short while. So I saw him up there on Easter Sunday. That's the last time I saw him, and let me tell you, he was spunky.
I didn't know him that well. I just met him a few times at the Southside Diner when he was in there for breakfast, and I was in there for lunch.
There you go.
I had a chance when I was down there to talk to Vinny.
Yeah.
He's working in the DA's office
Just
in
started
Albany.
in the DA's office
Yeah.
in Albany. And,
He had his badge and everything right away. Flipped
that's
it
right.
right out. There you go. So that'll be a...
Yeah. Now he's got to move
Interesting.
down there. He's
Got to move into the county.
county.
yeah, he's doing mostly office work appeals and that sort of thing, and but he also has 2 towns to cover once a month each, Queens and Ravenna, which are on the far end of Albany County.
Yeah, they are.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to be. They gave him like 30 days to establish residency.
Yeah,
or something like that.
usually 30 days, and they.
And I think
extend
that's
it.
because his father was pulling strings. And so they ordinarily give him 6 months. And his father calls somebody up and says, "Get him out of here." Just my guess.
Yeah.
I have to send my grandson down there. He's back in town.
He is.
Yeah, he left New York and he came back to Amsterdam. He wants to get a job in this area, so
What do you want to do here?
he would like to get into politics somehow.
Wow.
I said, well, I don't know. I said, I can call a couple people for you. I said, I don't know how well it'll go over, but
Wow.
that was his studies in school, was political science.
Doesn't care for being a headhunter in New York City, huh?
No, he said it was too expensive to live down there. He said coming up here to go to a restaurant or something, he says like putting money in the bank. He said it costs a fortune down there.
Yeah, you got to know where to go.
Well, I'm sure, but
You got to know where the discounts are on any given day. Patricia's great at that. He knows every.
Does he?
Oh, jeepers. God. We go down to New York and never spend any money. Went to 21 for lunch that one time. I've told you the story how I used the wrong silverware and they almost kicked me out. But it was a fixed price lunch. Came that day with a free glass of wine. The whole thing was like $20 at one of the niftiest places in New York. And considering we'd only spent $2.50 for round trip tickets from Albany that day, it was a pretty good deal.
I saw he had posted on Facebook about the Bush Library.
Oh yeah, he was on FoxNews.com yesterday
Yep.
with Jonathan Hunt. Last seen in Boston, tracking down. I think Jonathan Hunt was actually running after the perps last week in Boston. He was their star reporter on the overnight session. There's some interesting things coming out of that case.
They're figuring that they were on their way to New York to go to
Yes, they said they were
Times
going to go to Times Square and drop off 5 more bombs.
Yeah.
And the luck of the draw, they ran out of gas.
Yeah, or of course,
they needed gas to get
they
there.
needed gas because
Yeah.
after all, they were stealing a car to do it with coexist bumper sticker.
And the mom did say she wasn't going to come over now, though, because she was subject to arrest for that.
Yeah, apparently there's a
shoplifting.
warrant out for her. She didn't
Yeah.
show up in
For
court
what?
on that
Yeah, she
larceny charge.
shoplifted $1,600 from a store in Boston.
But apparently we were paying their welfare, and they're not saying, but they sort of think that they were carrying Obama phones when they were setting off the bombs. Yeah.
Oh.
Now they're saying the governor of Massachusetts is saying they have a right to privacy, so we're not going to release that information.
Information about the...
I'm sorry, the guy's dead. You're not going to tell us about it now? I wonder why. I wonder why.
It's,
Curious.
And then they're questioning him, and the magistrate comes in to arraign the guy in the hospital room, which I've done a couple of times when I was judge. When they can't come to you because of their health, I went and did arraignments in the emergency room at St. Mary's on several occasions. And then in the course of the ordinary patter of arraigning the person, the Miranda rights are read to him, and he shuts right up.
Yeah, that's
it's interesting that as long as it is relatively local control of the situation or things are going okay,
Right.
as soon as it
As
goes
soon as the feds come in.
and it's
Yeah.
not quite so okay.
Well,
They said most of the evidence they have against them was physical evidence, so they didn't need the Miranda.
Well, that's where we start, okay? You start with this information. That the only purpose of the Miranda warnings is to allow the confession to be used in court. There's no restriction on questioning a person endlessly if, as long as you don't use that information against them in the court of law. And one of the advantages of that, if I recall my criminal law correctly, is that I could be wrong.
No,
I could be.
no.
If the person takes a stand, if the defendant takes a stand in the case, then all that non-Miranda stuff can come in.
Really?
Yeah, but
Sure.
didn't you say to the police officer without your Miranda warnings that blah 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 blah?
And I'm sure they got it all
So
on tape
explain
and
that.
camera.
So has its advantages, top of which they want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't, I'm not sure what the rules in on how quickly they have to bring charges once they're in custody. That makes a big difference because that's what triggered the magistrate coming in.
Right.
And so the FBI is, or supposedly the FBI, is complaining that the magistrate shut the guy up by coming in unannounced and reading him his rights. That's not what happened at all. What happened is that once the charges are filed in the court, the magistrate has to arraign him within a certain period of time, and that's what the magistrate did. So the magistrate didn't do anything wrong here. If they wanted to control the time element as to when he's going to get Mirandized, what you do is you wait till the last second to file the papers. Maybe they did. I don't know.
Oh. It'll be interesting to see how long they drag this the whole thing out.
The other really interesting thing about this is this Saudi guy.
Misha?
Not Misha. His name's not Misha.
Oh, the other one, but no, the guy that was supposedly radicalizing the
that's-
older brother
his
was
name-
Misha.
His name is Misha?
His name is Misha. Yes, yes.
And your wife has the same name as Lee Oswald's wife, right?
Marina.
Marina.
FBI's going to be knocking on your door, buddy.
But my son has hair and he doesn't have a red beard, so I think we're in the clear on
You're
that.
in the
But
clear.
the guy's name is Misha. Yeah, we saw that. And he spells it the same way.
We were talking about Sister Patrick Francis the other day in connection with Oris Babiak putting it in
Yes.
the corner. Not exactly. This is my brother's class now, a couple years ahead of mine, and I think it was Michael Downey was involved. And I'll say it was Michael Downey because he's still in town. And I
Yeah,
see him
he is.
periodically. So we'll say it was Michael Downey.
He's in Albany.
Huh?
I think he's in Albany.
Well, whatever. I remember we saw him on election day when Michael was running over on the south side. He went to vote, so he must still be registered.
Well,
Was
I
registered
think
here.
he still is.
In any event, I see him periodically. So we'll say it was Michael Downey, and that would also be Kevin Devine's class. I think.
Yeah.
I think the story is Downey was turning around to talk to Kevin Devine. I'm not sure Devine was involved in this, but for the sake of the story, we'll say in class. So he turns around, and Sister Patrick goes berserk. Turn around. Lee Oswald used to turn around in class. Downey said, "Yeah, but I'm not planning on shooting the president, sister."
Well, the stretch you came up with for that one, huh?
Well, you know, it's
It's
not.
probably true.
It's not uncommon. I mean, remember that letter to the editor I wrote that I found in my World War II research about how Hirohito must be laughing at us because the DPW isn't salting the intersection of Cleveland Avenue and Mineville Street early enough for the workers to get to GE.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure Hirohito was just laughing silly when he read that in the recorder.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, the Walter Elwood himself made a similar claim regarding the annual rite of spring, which was setting brush fires around town. Yeah, it's, you know,
Yeah.
we're taking our public safety people away from important tasks, and Tojo we're you know, feeding right into Tojo's hands.
And I can remember that when we were kids, they were still doing
You know, you
that.
don't see that as much anymore. It was very, very common. It was like
Oh,
every spring.
Every
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to save the brooms, and if somebody was throwing out an old broom, we used to save it, hide them.
Yeah.
In the spring, when we started the fires, we used the brooms.
Yeah, you
What do you mean? To put them out, you mean?
Well, we used to make fake we were putting them out, but we were actually
just burning the
spraying
brooms and so.
Really?
Well, people used to burn their leaves on the
Well, no, that was
curbside.
that was common. Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and when we were
Well,
kids.
yeah, and that, you know, even as recently as when I moved here, which was about 30 years ago, I used to do every spring. I would have a little bonfire back
Yeah,
here.
you can't do that.
And I haven't dared do it for a long time. It's like hitchhiking. All of a sudden, you don't even notice, but one day it disappears.
Yeah.
When we lived up McNair Avenue back in the early 80s, we did some cleaning up, and we got one of those great big 55-gallon barrels, threw some stuff and burned it up. They came up and said, "You can't do that."
Can't do that.
I said, "I didn't know that. I thought you could." Yeah.
What about
could,
fire
yeah.
pits? I was thinking of putting a fire pit in the back.
You gotta have a screen over it. They've got screens.
Okay, if you got a screen,
the fire pit has a screen on it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, not,
In the
not
city?
one I build myself does.
Well, no,
I have
no,
to- okay.
no,
So that's the trick?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you take like a wooden frame and put a screen over it?
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly what I had in mind.
You get some fireproof wood, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You have the fireproof wood. Well, the soil's all clay. I figured once I put a couple of fires in there, the thing will build itself, right?
Well, yeah, if it's deep enough, it'll cure. No, it won't hold. You got to mix some sand with it.
Mm.
The clay itself won't bake.
No?
Really?
No, got to have a binder, they call it.
Would it only half bake?
Yeah, half baked.
Huh.
Yeah, but isn't the natural soil got sand in it anyway? Or-
No,
Yeah. No?
not clay. No, clay's clay.
Well, I have clay soil. It's a mixture. The veins are a little deeper.
Well, the stuff that
I got some real solid veins in the when I put a drainage trench in the backyard
Yeah.
here, and I got that. I mean, it was like the kind of modeling clay in school. It was that.
Yeah.
Drain
Pure.
it right back in the Fry's backyard? Is that where it went?
What's that?
Did it go right down the Fry's backyard after it drained from here?
Well, he diverted it a little bit back
Yes.
at the bottom.
But I think the Mattises are out of town. So.
But they didn't know it. You know, they were.
By the way, it's Nancy Mattis's birthday. Happy birthday, Nancy Fry Mattis.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
You know, they were talking the other night on TV about all this flooding in the Midwest. You know, the tons of flooding out there from the Mississippi and Illinois rivers. And people don't understand, you know, do we get that much more rain than we used to? No, we don't. But we've got a lot fewer places for the water to go to. Because you've got highways, you've got sidewalks,
Right.
and there's no place for the water to
Right,
be
right.
absorbed.
Look at the way
it goes right down there.
Look at the way the Dove and the Bun Creeks changed when they put those big box stores up on Route 30.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Well,
They
that
filled
flood
right up.
goes over the golf course because of that.
Well, every couple of years now we have a flood down in the West End because
Yeah.
of that.
Yep.
Well, you just channel the water to the one place, and they weren't made to have it come in like that. But I guess the Army Corps of Engineers neglected that when they were...
Water seeks its own level. Oh, well, I see. I'll blame Charlie Crable. What the heck? I see the recorder is drinking the Kool-Aid again. Did you see that editorial
About the Overlook?
yesterday about the bridge?
The Overlook?
Or the Overlook.
The Mohawk Valley Overlook.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday I was driving over the current bridge, and I took a glance left toward Guy Park, and I said, this is a much better view up at this level than it's going to be at the level of the new bridge. So why don't we just rename the New Amsterdam Bridge as the Mohawk Overlook and be done with it?
Because you're not going to be able to see very well even the park from there at that level. You're going to be looking down under. You've got the obstructions. Even from the new bridge, you won't be able to see down to the park very well.
Yeah, I mean, if you raise the height to get a better view, like you have from the current bridge, then you won't see the park at all.
Oh, right.
And if you lower it, you're not going to have the view that you're claiming you had, and plus the boats won't be able to get under it.
Yeah.
Fascinating, and it's going to spur economic development on the river. Okay.
Time out.
How? How is that going to spur economic development on the river? Okay, we built the Riverlink Park, millions of dollars paid for that. It cost $1 million just to put that bridge from the mall over to it, right? What economic development has that stirred up? We built a restaurant there, and the restaurant can't support itself. In other words, if it had to operate under normal laws of supply and demand, it couldn't stay in business. It's only in business because we basically give away the rental of the place. Otherwise, it can't function. Well, what do they pay? $300 a year. In a couple of years, they paid the previous owners of the restaurant or proprietors of the restaurant paid nothing. In exchange, they pick up their own garbage. So yeah, it's a great facility. It's lovely. It's nice to have for the people of the city. But don't pretend that this is going to spur economic development. It's going to spur 10 cents worth of economic development.
Not at all. Not at all. The first year it's open, you will get a few people coming. Let's go down and see that bridge. Let's go down and see that. But after that,
from where? From here?
No, Schenectady.
I don't think so. I can't imagine.
Well, we get some people from Schenectady come to the Riverlink Park.
That's different. There's something going on at the Riverlink Park.
Well, we're going to have things going in the middle of the. I'm not condoning this place.
Yes, you are.
What's going to be going on the bridge?
They're going to have parties. They're going to have concerts. They're going to have. They got a park in the middle of the bridge.
Read-ins. They'll have read-ins.
Reading.
Yeah. That's their theory. They're going to have.
By the way, remind me to tell Von Hasselen to check into whether there's a copyright problem with that Wheel of Life before he goes and reproduces it on that bridge.
From the book?
No. I mean, the original artwork itself, which is being copied, may still be under protection because of the original mosaic is not all that old. That's under 100 years old, I think. I'm not sure when it was put in, but the rug didn't go into 37.
Yeah.
Which replaced the mosaic.
Yeah, somebody may have.
Oh. Yeah.
But if the carpenters replaced the mosaic.
Oh yeah, but then the mosaic replaced the carpet. They pulled the carpet up. Somebody said, I think we should raise the taxes, and somebody else said, I think we should raise the carpet, and he says, yeah, you're right, you got to raise the tax before you can raise the carpet. Duck soup. No squash.
Yeah. Now, that might be a good point.
Well, I think it's worth looking into before we do anything. Like
Yes.
when they built that windmill over there, they
had
should have found out in advance that the thruway would not allow the arms to operate.
There was an editorial in the paper today about the bridge from somebody from Northville, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Not an editorial, a letter to the editor.
I
Today?
didn't see that.
In the recorder?
Yep. Well, I think it was the Recorder, maybe it was the Gazette.
Oh.
Must have been the Gazette. Yeah.
No letters here.
Yeah, it was the Gazette.
Mm.
Oh, by the way, Ann Kolodje passed away as well. Lovely lady, mother of my friend, fellow attorney J. Paul Kolodje, who was the maid of honor at my sister's wedding.
He was?
Yeah, and his wife was the best man.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, they met, I believe, at my sister's wedding, and they got married themselves a month later, and they've been married ever since. Anyway, the Anne comes from that era that I think we're never going to see again, when really, really smart women became legal secretaries because there were no other openings, no other professions open for them. And they really ran the law offices, and they knew as much as the lawyers about a lot of stuff. And I think of Adelaide Bubniak as another example of that. She was not only the mother of all those smart Bubniak kids, but also the aunt of all those smart Seluzniak kids. Her sister was Mrs. Seluzniak, so it's Seluzniak and Bubniak in every class were
they're
shakers. As a matter of fact, there's what the hell, I can brag. In my yearbook and my sister's yearbook have almost identical pictures, and it's 3 National Merit Letters of Commendation were awarded in each class, and each one was Seluzniak, Bubniak, and going.
Did you see any of them up there on Saturday while you were there?
Seluzniaks or Bubniaks? No.
No?
No. All right, I'm in fairly regular contact with Karen Seluzniak because she's one of my Facebook friends.
Yeah.
And she, of course, is in contact with her brother. Tommy Bubniak I see once in a blue moon. And his cousin, Dee Dee, was my secretary for 16 years. So I keep an eye on them. So,
Okay.
anyway, so rest in peace, Ann Kaloja. She was Paul Woolman's secretary for many years, and was with Vicinanzo and Woolman when Paul was over there, and then went with him. So, very, very, very smart, nice lady. Anyway. Well, why did I open it up? Because a letter to the editor, we were talking about the bridge. Okay. $16.5 freaking million to build this bridge that doesn't do anything, and they're not calling it a bridge because it really isn't a bridge, because it really doesn't connect to anything. We're calling it an overlook.
An overlook.
It's almost like a pier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's more of a pier than anything else.
It's gonna.
For $1 million, the lock bridge at Guy Park Manor could have been adapted to do
The same
the same thing, and that's a stretch on the upside as to what it would cost. That would have also connected the west end with the bike path and the tow path, and basically connected the west end with the south side, which it doesn't now.
And you'd have someplace on this side, access from this side of the river.
Right, as opposed to what's happening now, which is just a duplication of what's already there 100 yards down the river. Only it doesn't.
It's not a duplication because you can't get off.
The only way, I haven't seen the final plans, I don't know who has, but the only way it's going to connect to downtown is if it connects to the other bridge. and connects to the ramp back down to Main Street.
Well, when I brought the question up at the public hearing that they had for the bridge, and they said, well, no, there is no way to get off the bridge on the north side, so after it's built, you're going to have to figure out
how to get the money to do that.
They can put a dock and have a shuttle boat go back and forth.
Well, Chera had an even better idea. Put in those gondolas like they have in the parks.
Yeah.
There's a view for you.
Yeah.
But I think Babe Pilata had the even best idea. He says, just connect it to the 4th floor of the bank building and you can take the elevator down. I voted for Babe.
I voted for Babe.
voted for Babe. He's back home.
Is he?
Yeah.
How come he hasn't been on the show? Does he know we have a show, the radio show?
I told him to come, but I'll have to next time. Next week I'll have to go get him, I guess.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on with the. Do you see? Have you noticed that I've prepared stuff for the show today? Because last week's show was just
I
such
see
a,
4 things written.
such a free for all.
Well,
Anyway,
we'll see if this comes out better.
city budget. City budget. Still working on that. Did you go to the meeting the other night?
No, I didn't go.
Oh,
I
okay.
had company, so I. Yeah.
All right.
But I read the stories the next day, and it's the recorder is great. Half the common council meeting and put it in the next day, and 3 days later they'll put the other half in.
Well, that's all right. That's
So they
nothing wrong with that.
They spread the story out. Yeah, but I want to know the next day what happened.
Well, it's just, let's face it, it can wait.
He's sticking up for his buddy
I
Charlie. Okay, Charlie.
Yes, Charlie is my buddy.
I'm just saying,
Yes.
nothing wrong with that.
He's my friend on Facebook, as is Tony Benjamin.
See, they approved the full-time appointment of an assistant recreation director.
I saw that. On the issue, sort of on the issue, not really, but sort of on the issue of recreation, Joe Isabel had a very interesting quote. He says, "I don't mind spending a little more on recreation. We're spending $349,000 on
transportation.
subsidizing the buses, and nobody says a word about it." Nobody, Joe.
Yeah, we did. We went through that.
$349,000 to subsidize buses and nobody rides.
It's $349,000, but I think only a hundred and some thousand is from the city budget.
No.
The rest
I
is
don't
from
think
the
so.
state.
I don't think so. I think that was the local share.
Yeah, not 300,000.
Are you sure?
I'm almost positive.
I remember when you guys, when you guys, maybe it wasn't you guys, because it might have been the term you were out. They said they were getting ready to abolish the bus system, and they said, "All right, we'll put 75,000 in, and if it goes above that, we're canceling it."
Yeah.
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 Now it's just a bottomless pit. No, I'm sure that can't be the whole thing, because the state and federal shares are way more than that. Okay, so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, for the umpteenth time, my advice to the Common Council and the Budget Board is this. Take some very straightforward figures. You take the bottom line of what the entire cost of the bus system is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You divide that by the number of rides. And I don't care really, for the purpose of this discussion, whether the rides are going to Albany or the rides are going to Division Street.
Just the riders.
Just the number of rides. You know that. You know how many people ride the bus. Okay? Take the total amount, divide by the number of riders.
Rides.
Rides. Yeah. And you come up with the figure of how much it costs to operate the bus system per ride. Okay? Now you subtract from that figure what you collect in fares. From
the riders.
And now you see how much government is subsidizing each ride. Years ago, it was $28 a ride. $28 a ride. You can pick up a cab for $56, okay? It would pay the city to give everybody cab tickets.
Just out of curiosity, how many cab companies do we now have in Amsterdam?
I don't think there's more than 2.
Okay.
Maybe 3.
I see them
Maybe
all over the place taking people.
Yeah.
And usually it's half full, these taxis. So people are taking the expedient way to get to someplace.
Right.
They're not sitting on the bus taking a loop.
Right. There are no rules.
And you could pay for the cost of these riders in a bus in a taxi cheaper than you can pay for them to ride on the bus.
Absolutely. Way
And
cheaper.
you'd have 3 going concerns
Right.
in Amsterdam supporting the economy
Right.
and employment of people in this community.
You know, the city should not be in the social service business. That's not what city municipal government is for. That's what the county social service department is for. And we're actually these subsidies that is a huge cost which is a very little benefit actually to the people receiving it. When you get right down to it, if they're spending $2 or $3 for a bus ride, and it would cost them $5 for a cab,
Which is quicker.
It's not that big a benefit. So, and for the number of people who were actually are in need, it's really small. And then, like Price Chopper, I understand, has their own buses where they pick people up to take them to the market a couple times a week.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Brown's bus?
I believe they use Brown to do that. So it's not like even the service is going to disappear. Somebody'll pick it up if there's a need.
And they can do it at a more economical
so-
rate than the city.
So how do we get out of here's my practical solution. Everybody, we decide that over the next year, we're going to keep the bus system and then get rid of it. Okay, we'll keep it for a year. Everyone who rides the bus will get, for every ride they make, will get 2 vouchers for a cab to be used in the future. All right?
Okay.
So only the people who are actually riding the bus now, who actually need the bus now, are going to get those cab tickets. And then over the next, presumably they'll accumulate enough chits that they will be able to go wherever they want for free for the next 2 years, right? And the city will still save a fortune.
Yeah.
Okay, what it costs in maintenance of the bus system, it's outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And, there's some talk that, because we took that $2 million in the stimulus money for the bus system, we're going to have to pay that all back if we don't keep the system. Oh, yeah? Well, who's the idiot who did that? Who's the idiot who agreed to this endless subsidy of a system that broke down decades ago? One of the statistics in my book from 1906 is the number of riders on the FJ&G trolley system, okay, just in Amsterdam. They had enough riders in a year to populate the city of Chicago, okay? Enough rides.
Really?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. So just think about that. Those days are gone. Most people have cars. Which they didn't then. We don't need this socialist system of public transportation.
And you don't see people standing on the corner waiting for a bus to come by and pick them up on a regular route.
No. People who ride the bus, they call it like it's a cab, and then they pick them up. It's as simple as that. Outrageous.
Other than the cab companies, you have Access. I think that's a county. County, is it? Or
Yeah, the county subsidizes that, yeah. Or Office of the Agent or somebody.
Office for the Aging, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Gavin, let's put you on the firing line here for a moment. I see the school board adopted some of the contracts. Right?
Yep.
And let me say this, as a taxpayer, I think you did a pretty good job there. You've got contracts limited to 1.5% in wage increases, which in this era is all that is reasonable, and would have been impossible 3 or 4 years ago.
And if you look at the contract in total, because the district was able to have the unions agree to a change in insurance policy, the savings generated for each of those years in there pays for the cost of that, and still the district comes out ahead. The fact that the teachers signed their contract a week or two ago, between now and the end of the year, the district is saving $200,000 in insurance premiums.
Wow.
All right. But it just goes to show the ridiculous cost of insurance, and we still are. Everybody is under the umbrella now of what the Obama care is going to mandate and dictate to see what's going to happen there. But the district did well. Negotiations, both sides were pleased. We always like to have them get a little bit less raise. They always want a little bit more raise. But not only did we get a change in insurance, we have at the secondary level the increase of 1 teaching period from each teacher, which will in turn allow for more classes, a portion of which would be courses that were never offered before, and also classes that will help remediate students who are in need of improving their academic standing to graduate. So we're picking up more teaching time from the teachers without any additional cost.
And all this came about simply because we elected Gavin Murdoch to the school board?
I think this came about in spite of the fact that you elected me to that. All this came about because of a cooperative atmosphere that has been generated this year by members of the board with the various bargaining units, but in particular with the executive board of the teachers union working with our superintendent, both with the view that we need to do some things different and we need to be able to service our kids in a more effective fashion. That also ties in with the new state requirements for teacher evaluation. Though that was not, part of that was being negotiated at the same time the contract was, that was settled prior to the settlement of the contract. And what this has done is changed the manner and the way that material is being presented to students, and in a more universal manner, so that everything is being reinforced from everything else. Reading is being reinforced in math class. Reading is being reinforced in science class. And you know, if you can't read, you can't do anything. But if you can read, you can learn anything. And so there's a renewed interest and focus on the reading ability, not just at the secondary level, but all the way through. And that was a big concession that we got from the union to be able to put the teachers in the classroom more times during the course of a day. The problem I always faced when I was principal is that a schedule for teachers and students is like gears, and they all got to fit. And sometimes something precludes those gears from meshing appropriately, because you had a limited number of teachers teaching with an unlimited request of students for academics and for courses. Now you've got, approximately 80 more class offerings during the course of a day, maybe 90.
Wow.
Which is a big change, which is going to really help, the top end kid, because they're going to have a chance to take more rigorous courses, more college preparation courses, advanced courses, and you're going to have the student who is struggling have one more opportunity to be in a structured classroom to help them recover or to learn for the first time the skills necessary to pass the state assessments and to graduate. So we were really pleased with that from the teachers. Plus the fact that the conversion to the insurance, though it's not as rich as they say, and there is a little bit more contribution on co-pays and things like that than teachers have, their cost of the insurance went down as well.
Oh, good.
It was health-wise, people get very emotionally involved with insurance because we recognize how important it is, particularly as the older teachers, because they're the ones who do utilize the package more than young teachers. You always expect somebody in their 20s isn't going to go into the doctor as often as somebody in their 50s or 60s as you get older. They're not as reliant upon prescriptions as us older folks are.
Now, how does this affect the retirees?
It doesn't. This is separate from what the retirees.
So the retirees have a
they have
different insurance plan?
And the way they get switched over to Medicare, Medicaid, from it is different, and ours simply becomes the secondary provider of it. So we were pleased at the teachers, and we're still got 2 more units that they're talking to. They're talking to the clerical still, and
but that was the big one.
That was the big one. As goes the teachers, so go everything else in there. So we were pleased. They're able to present a budget this year for the voters to vote on, which is the tax levy that the voters are going to be paying into, that they have to cover. is the same as last year. There is no increase in the tax levy. Doesn't mean that some people aren't going to be paying more taxes based upon, you know, evaluation, where you live in the community, you know, and all those other factors that school districts have absolutely no control
Fortunately,
over.
we live in a community where the property values keep going down relative to everybody else,
Yeah.
so that our share diminishes.
Our share does, but
And
some
while
people...
while a $100,000 house in Amsterdam will pay the same taxes as a $100,000 house in the town of Florida, the fact is that next year the $100,000 house in Amsterdam is going to be worth $90,000, and the one in Florida is going to be worth $110,000. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, as long as we keep living in a progressive community that prides itself in reducing its property values, we're going to be making out all right here.
all set. Yeah.
Our legislators are looking to try to rescind the Triborough Amendment and also do away with the.
Is that a serious proposal at this point?
It was in the paper
Really?
yesterday or the day before, and to do away with.
Well, that would be a major help for every
binding
municipality and school district.
They want to do away with binding arbitration.
Yeah, that Triborough is something that's always been a real stick for negotiations, because in essence,
They don't have to
even
give
though
up anything.
nothing happens,
Nothing.
they're still
Right.
getting their step, and so the incentive is there. It's not as great as if everything goes away and you start from scratch.
Yeah, when I first started negotiating for the city, it was at a point in time when the previous 5 years, the cost of health insurance had doubled for the city. And the unions just wanted to ignore that. I said, do you realize you're getting twice as much worth of health insurance as you did 5 years ago? Doesn't matter. We don't care. Because we're paying, they were not paying a percentage. They were paying a fixed amount.
Right.
They were, $8 per pay period per individual, and the $12 for a family.
Yeah.
And so when the cost went from 100 to 200,
The city was eating it all.
the city was eating the entire amount. And with the Triborough amendment, there was no
They didn't
incentive
care.
whatsoever.
None at
No.
all.
The only way we got them to agree to a percentage was to give them 3.5% raises. And in the long run, Kim was the controller at the time, and she understood these things. She said the important thing, it doesn't even particularly matter what the percentage is. The important thing is to get them on a percentage basis.
Yeah, and get the city out from under the whole thing.
Right.
You know, she's pretty sharp.
So that in the future, both the union and the management have an incentive to reduce the cost of the health insurance, because we had this Cadillac plan.
Oh, everybody did.
They used to brag about it. Hey, we got the Cadillac health plan. Yeah, well, guess what? We're a Pinto community.
They still have the Cadillac plan.
Yeah, they do. They have, it's
Yeah.
it's what's been
What time
created.
is it getting to be here?
It's getting to be about 10 of 11.
Oh, okay, good. We started almost on time today.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Speaking of the controller,
Do we have one?
No,
no, we
He
don't.
doesn't.
Well, there's nothing to speak of.
And that's exactly.
But if we did,
All right. So
What are they going to pay him? They get the assistant is getting $70,000, right?
yeah, I don't care. But now they passed the local. Did they pass the local law? Is it going to be on the ballot in June?
I think it is.
Okay. Well, you know what? Just because nobody was doing the job right doesn't mean we shouldn't have an elected official.
Exactly.
And I really think the person in charge of the department should continue to be an elected official. I'm not at all opposed to doing what they did here, which is to hire a competent, well-qualified, civil service classified deputy who knows what they're doing. You want somebody in there on a permanent basis who can do the nuts and bolts stuff.
Yes.
But you want the policy to be in the hands of an elected official, because there's too much of the sovereign power is resting in the hands of the unelected
right.
person. And I mean, you recall how how easy it is for a controller to to transfer funds from one thing to another with no oversight. It would be a good idea to always have whoever has that power subject to removal by the people.
And not be manipulated
All right.
by the appointer.
By the appointing authority.
Yeah, because that's the big problem.
Yeah, that's the
the
problem
big
too.
problem.
So anyway, as we get closer to June, I'm going to say, point blank, I think the people should keep the elected position.
I do too.
So vote no.
Vote no. Vote no, and of course, then the other thing is, of course, it would naturally do away with the budget board as we established it, as the people established it several years ago. You see constant arguments. I saw Jerry Scrocky made one the other day, and I understand it. I understand the argument that for the last 5 years, adopting the budget has been a disaster under the system that we put in place.
Under the administration we have.
But that's the thing. What that position ignores is that for the 2 years after it first went into place fresh, it worked like a charm. It worked very smoothly. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. The problem is we replaced the elected officials who were doing that with incompetence. And there's no reason whatsoever to suspect that having that same incompetent crew under a new system that it's going to work any better. The one thing it did do is it shaved a month out of the process because there's no longer the mayor puts the budget, the common council puts their own budget, the mayor vetoes, they override the veto and blah, 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 and they go back and forth and back and forth. This forces them all to work together as one legislative body for that purpose. And I felt at the time that it was not only fair but a great idea to have the only other citywide elected official, a person who deals with the finances every day of the week, be one of the people voting on the budget. I don't see why that's a problem at all. In Saratoga, they still have a department head legislature. I don't think they've abolished that yet. They have an elected public works commissioner, an elected public safety commissioner, and these people are the legislative body. I mean, just because that's a little different from the way we do things doesn't mean it's necessarily
bad.
It's
bad. And as a matter of fact, when we put in this budget board system, the state controller's office and the Department of State liked it very much, and they were passing it around to every other community in the state to take a look at. I don't see that it has a downside other than the people running it. And you know what? You can't.
The incompetence of the people, I have to say, the incompetence of the people in there running our city government right now is beyond belief.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that was said in the paper with respect to the current deputy, I don't know this person at all or what kind of a job, is it a he? I don't even know that's is it a he?
It's a he.
Is doing. I certainly respect the position he's in and the difficulties he faces, but are we in a position to say he's doing a great job yet? Somebody said the other day, has the AUD been filed for 2 years ago and last year?
Not yet. Not yet.
So we don't even know at this point what our fund balance is, for example.
No, they still don't know.
We've heard a whole lot less coming out of that office since this switches were made, and you're not always sure why it's quiet.
That's because partially because he was appointed by
the mayor.
By the mayor.
And she's not going to, and as opposed to the old way when she was able to constantly complain about the controller's office because it's not something she controlled. And now of course it's her appointment, so you don't want to know anything that's going on in the office.
If you look back, every position in the city was appointed by her, and the ones that weren't appointed by her were let go unceremoniously.
All right.
So
to say the least.
Yes, to say the least.
All right. I think that's about enough for this hour, don't you think?
Very good.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we just packed it all in here today. See what happens when you got a little crib sheet? And we got more for the second hour. I got a crib sheet for the second hour. We didn't even cover half of the topics I wrote down. So, okay, I'm Bob Going with Jim DeKosha and Gavin Murdoch. Stay tuned for more of the show with No Name.